In the sprawling world of the young and the restless, danger often lurks behind the facade of opportunity, and even the most optimistic plans can unravel into traps that threaten everything. October promises to be one of those months where ambition collides with deception, and Noah Newman, who has been striving to carve out his own identity separate from the overwhelming shadows of his parents, may find himself standing on a precipice of betrayal orchestrated by a woman whose motives remain cloaked in mystery. Sienna Bacall, portrayed by the magnetic Tamara Braun, is set to enter the narrative not as a passing distraction, but as a catalyst for a dangerous chain of events in Los Angeles. Her role, either as the apparent developer or the sly operative behind one, opens the door to intrigue that will stretch far beyond a single meeting. Sharon and Nick Newman, still protective of their son despite his attempts to navigate adulthood on his own terms, feel a sense of pride when Noah reveals that he has been approached by a developer eager to discuss a potential expansion of his club. It sounds legitimate, promising, even exhilarating, as if the doors of opportunity are finally opening wider for Noah. The Newmans, long entangled in wars of business and love, cling to the hope that this could be Noah's breakthrough, an achievement that could stabilize him in ways they have longed for. Yet soap opera wisdom insists that when something looks too perfect, it rarely is. The supposed development deal becomes the pretext for Noah's travel to Los Angeles, and from the very moment he sets foot in that city, the air around him thickens with a tension he cannot name. His optimism blinds him to subtle quests, slightly to polished promises, the eagerness of a project that should have taken months of negotiations but suddenly demands his immediate presence. Sharon, attuned to danger after decades of surviving manipulations, secrets, and betrayals, senses a storm in the making, while Nick, who has worn both the armor of a father and the scars of a fighter, suppresses his unease in order to encourage his son. Neither of them can anticipate the full extent of the peril awaiting Noah in Los Angeles, but both remain tethered to their instincts, aware that Newmans rarely walk into clean deals without strings attached. It is here that Sienna Bacall reveals her hand. Whether she introduces herself directly as the developer or remains masked as a representative, her presence is electric, manipulative, and intoxicating all at once. Sienna is not the kind of woman who stumbles into situations. She crafts them, bending the narrative around her until her targets no longer realize they are being played. Noah, caught between wanting to prove himself and wanting to believe in a legitimate future, overlooks the subtle warning signs. Sienna exploits his hunger for validation, his desire to show Sharon and Nick that he can stand shoulder to shoulder with his family rather than in their shadows. She lures him deeper, weaving promises of expansion, opportunity, and prestige, until Noah is so far down the path that retreat seems not only cowardly but impossible. What Noah does not realize is that the meeting he envisions as a stepping stone toward building his own empire is instead a carefully arranged ambush. Sienna may not be acting entirely alone. Whispers in Los Angeles suggest that there are powerful interests pulling strings from behind the scenes. Whether Sienna is motivated by her own vendetta or is acting as a weapon for someone else, her intent is crystal clear. Noah Newman is not supposed to leave Los Angeles unscathed. The dinner, the meeting, the contractile of it is the wrapping paper on a weapon designed to cripple, humiliate, or even destroy. The stakes climb higher when it becomes clear that this is not merely about business but about legacy, about drawing Noah into a world where the cost of ambition is paid in blood. Meanwhile, Noah's personal life is on a parallel collision course. He has made plans to travel to Nice, a symbolic reunion with his parents meant to bridge family bonds across oceans, but fate mocks the calendar. The detour to Los Angeles, fueled by Sienna's promises, creates an obstacle that could change everything. Sharon and Nick, waiting with hearts wide open, remain unaware that their son's destiny is being rewritten by forces they cannot yet name. What begins as an ordinary business trip begins to feel like a disappearing act, as Noah misses calls, sends vague updates, and finally goes silent altogether. Sharon's intuition screams louder than ever, and Nick begins to push against the silence, searching for answers that nobody seems willing to give. The climax of the trap arrives not with a contract signed but with betrayal sealed in blood. The specifics remain deliberately murky. Whether Sienna orchestrates an outright attack, a staged accident, or a drug-induced collapse matters less than the aftermath. Nick, after frantic searching and following instinct sharper than logic, finds his son in the most devastating of positions, sprawled across a cold floor, drenched in his own blood. The light of opportunity extinguished in a cruel instant. The sight shatters him, breaking through the steel exterior he has honed across decades of battles both personal and corporate. In that moment, Nick is not a titan or a fighter, he is simply a father, collapsing at the sight of his wounded child, tears cutting through the armor he has so carefully maintained. For Sharon, the news is a fresh wound layered atop a history of trauma. Her son, who had finally begun to find stability, is once again the victim of forces beyond his control. The agony is not just in seeing him hurt but in realizing that the past continues to repeat itself in cycles the Newmans can never escape. Sienna, standing somewhere in the shadows, becomes a figure of haunting ambiguity. Was her intent to destroy Noah entirely, or was she sending a message? Did she act of her own volition, or is she the emissary of a greater scheme that could swallow the Newmans whole? The questions multiply even as the answers hide themselves, leaving room for paranoia, suspicion, and deeper conspiracy. The ripple effect of this betrayal cannot be overstated. Nick's rage, once awakened, will not simmer quietly. He will tear through Los Angeles, Genoa City, and beyond to uncover the truth, leaving no stone unturned, no enemy unchecked. Sharon, often underestimated for her quiet resilience, will find herself standing in the center of yet another storm, her maternal instincts sharpening into something unrelenting. Together, they will face not just the immediate question of who hurt their son but the broader one of why. Was Noah merely collateral damage in a larger game? Or is Sienna's vendetta directly tied to the Newman name, the weight of its history, and the enemies it has accumulated over generations? This storyline has the potential to crack open not just Noah's future but the very foundations of the Newman family. For decades, the young and the restless has thrived on the collision of love, ambition, and betrayal, and the arrival of Sienna Bacall ensures that those themes will once again consume the narrative. The trap she sets for Noah is not just a personal betrayal, it is a declaration of war against the entire Newman legacy. What remains uncertain, and all the more gripping, is the scope of the danger that has just been unleashed. As Noah lies on the edge between survival and tragedy, the Newmans brace for a reckoning that will test their loyalty, their strength, and their willingness to confront the shadows that have followed them for generations. In Los Angeles, the sun may shine, but beneath the golden sky lies a battlefield where ambition bleeds into manipulation, where hope collapses under the weight of betrayal, and where the Newmans must once again learn that survival comes not from trusting opportunity but from never underestimating the enemies waiting to exploit it. And as October unfolds, viewers will be left to wonder whether Noah Newman will rise from the trap as a stronger man or whether this encounter with Sienna Bacall marks the beginning of his undoing. A tragedy from which even the indomitable Newman family cannot fully recover. Noah Newman's descent into darkness begins not with a single moment but with the slow, suffocating realization that he is trapped in a game he cannot control. The promise of opportunity in Los Angeles has curdled into a nightmare of captivity, manipulation, and violence. The bright lights of the city that once promised to showcase his triumphs now illuminate the cage of his downfall. He had hoped to prove himself as a man capable of carving out a legacy independent of his family name, but instead, he finds himself ensnared by enemies who know exactly how to exploit his vulnerabilities. Noah spirals into madness not because he is weak but because his determination to fight back is met with relentless brutality. Every attempt to escape his captors is crushed by unseen hands, every scream swallowed by walls built to conceal suffering. The torment reaches a breaking point when the attacks on his body become too severe to ignore blows that leave him crumpled, bruised, and bleeding, clinging to fragments of consciousness. It is at this lowest moment that salvation finally inches closer, though not in the way Noah might have expected. Nick Newman, his father, receives a message, a fragment of communication that shifts the story from suspicion to certainty. The time for questioning who orchestrated the kidnapping is over. The only priority left is to save his son before the damage becomes permanent. Nick's heart pounds with a primal desperation that strips away his businessman's exterior and leaves only the raw essence of a father determined to pull his child back from the brink. In his mind, there is no enemy too powerful, no wall to hide, no trap too dangerous. Nothing will stop him from reaching Noah. The tears he shed when first discovering his son in blood resurface. But now they fuel a rage and determination so fierce that even Sienna Bacall and her shadowy allies may not fully grasp the storm they have unleashed. Sharon Newman, however, is already unraveling under the weight of terror. Her maternal instincts clash with the horror of helplessness, and her body betrays her as panic drives her to faint again and again. Each collapse is symbolic of her struggle to process the unbearable possibility of losing Noah. Yet beneath her fragile exterior, Sharon has always possessed a core of resilience, a quiet strength honed through decades of betrayal, heartbreak, and survival. This is the woman who has risen from ashes countless times, and though she trembles and falters, her mind is already fighting to find clarity. She knows she must steady herself, not just for Noah but for Nick, who cannot shoulder this battle alone. Together, they must summon the composure to navigate a labyrinth of deceit and danger while refusing to be paralyzed by fear. Meanwhile, in the shadows of this chaos, new players begin to step onto the board, their moves subtle but intentional. The introduction of a mysterious figure, portrayed by Roger Howarth, ignites speculation and raises the stakes of the narrative. Publicly described only as a stranger, his presence radiates menace wrapped in ambiguity. The soap world thrives on secrets, and Howarth's character seems destined to embody one. Could he be Tucker McCall, returned under a shroud of reinvention, eager to dismantle the Newman family from within? Or could he be someone entirely new, a figure with ties to Genoa City's past that fans have not yet uncovered? The ambiguity is deliberate, ensuring that viewers cannot look away, because every clue suggests that he is not just another passing antagonist but the puppet master pulling the strings behind Sienna's dangerous scheme. Sienna Bacall, fiery and cunning, emerges as the visible antagonist, but her every move feels dictated, choreographed by a higher power. Howarth's character, whether Tucker or a fresh creation, may very well be the architect of this elaborate trap, using Sienna as his weapon to strike directly at Noah. Their dynamic is chilling to imagine. Sienna, with her intoxicating charm and ruthless precision, carrying out orders that intertwine seduction with cruelty, while the mysterious man lurks in the shadows, orchestrating each blow with cold detachment. The possibility that Noah is not merely collateral but a chosen target makes the stakes even higher. Why Noah? Why now? The answers may lie in vendettas that stretch across decades of Newman victories and defeats. The tension thickens when considering the actors' shared history. Tamara Braun and Lucas Adams once played intertwined roles on Days of Our Lives, and reuniting them in this storyline carries metatextual electricity. Fans who remember their past work will feel an eerie sense of déjà vu as they watch Braun Sienna manipulate and torment Noah, played by an actor whose age and demeanor echo Adams's presence. This intentional echo blurs the line between fiction and memory, adding another layer of complexity to an already volatile story. It is not just about what is happening on screen but also about how it resonates with audiences familiar with soap history. As Noah struggles with the trauma of captivity, oscillating between moments of clarity and hallucinations born from pain, the question of his mental survival becomes as urgent as his physical rescue. Can he endure this torment without losing his mind entirely? His descent into madness is not mere dramatics but a reflection of the deep psychological warfare his captors wage. Every whisper, every false promise of release, every physical blow is designed not only to break his body but to fracture his spirit. And yet, somewhere beneath the blood and the fear, the resilience of the Newman name simmers. Noah may be the prey, but the blood of Victor Newman runs in his veins, and even broken prey can become dangerous when cornered. The inevitable collision looms closer, Nick racing against time, Sharon battling her own panic, new characters stepping into positions of power, and Sienna standing at the crossroads between executioner and pawn. The reintroduction of Howarth as a potentially familiar figure ensures that this is not a one-off story but the beginning of a saga that could reshape power structures not only in Los Angeles but back in Genoa City. The Newmans are once again under siege, and this time the threat is both external and internal, an attack designed not simply to harm but to destabilize. The road ahead is treacherous. If Nick succeeds in rescuing Noah, it will not be the end but merely the beginning of a broader war. Sharon's fainting spells foreshadow the toll this ordeal will take on her health and stability, perhaps leaving her vulnerable to manipulation of her own. Noah, even if pulled back from the brink, will carry scars that cannot be erased, scars that could alter his relationships and decisions forever. And hovering over it all is the enigmatic figure of Howarth's character, a reminder that soap villains rarely reveal their full hand in the first act. His identity Tucker McCall reborn or someone new will hold the key to unlocking not just Noah's ordeal but the larger battle the Newmans will soon face. October, therefore, becomes a crucible. It is the month where Noah's madness collides with Nick's desperation, Sharon's fragility, Sienna's ruthlessness, and the stranger's power. It is the month where the line between survival and destruction grows thin, where the Newmans must confront not only the enemies before them but also the shadows within themselves. And for the audience, it is the month where The Young and the Restless reaffirms its mastery of suspense, heartbreak, and drama, reminding everyone why this soap continues to dominate after decades on air.